What's going on, everybody? It's Luke here from Play Like a Jet. And today I'm here to break down and give my initial thoughts on the entirety of the Jets 2023 draft class. They took 7 players, even though they came in with just 5 picks. Joe Douglas wheeling and dealing a little bit on day 3. I'm going to give you kind of my broad overarching thoughts on most of the picks. If you want the more nitty-gritty, in-depth X's and O's, I've got my film breakdowns coming. There's already 3 up on the channel on 3 of the guys that stood out to me the most, but you know the other 4 are coming as well. So make sure you subscribe, you like, and you check out those videos. But what do I think about the 2023 class? Well, it started with Will McDonald, and it was a pick that has just grown on me ever since the selection was made. I love the bend, the fluidity, the ability to flatten to the quarterback coming around the corner. I said it in my initial thoughts video. He's a guy who was misused and miscast by Matt Campbell at Iowa State. He was used at a 4-eye or a 5-tech, head over the tackle, but he was 240 pounds. This guy, as Salah said in his call to him, is going to kick out to the 9-tech spot. He's going to be the weak side defensive end, and he's going to pin his ears back, and he's going to rush the passer. He did it at an elite level throughout the entirety of the last 2 seasons when he was given those limited opportunities. In true pass sets, where you're one-on-one against the tackle, he had a 92 overall grade in 2022. He is the best of the best. He has so much talent with his hands. He can swipe. He can club rip. He can do all of those things. You even saw a cross chop from him. So I'm excited to see him develop. And he just adds to a group that I think has some strength to it, but this now could really tip it over the edge. And then on day 2, they took Joe Tippmann at number 43 out of Wisconsin. The Jets needed a center. It was no surprise. They were mocked at JMS, Tippmann, Weipler, all of those guys throughout the entirety of the process. And they landed on Joe Tippmann. They had their choice of the bunch. Outside of Steve Avila, there were no interior offensive linemen off the board. The reason I think they took Tippmann is because of the mobility and the athleticism. That was a real feature and calling card of this Joe Douglas draft class. Tippmann is elite in space. He's a fantastic zone blocker. He was the 11th best in the entirety of college football last season, and he is best utilized in space. When he was used in the Wisconsin offense as a puller on concepts like a pin pull that Mike LaFleur ran a ton, he is just so smooth in space for a guy who's 6'6" and 315 pounds. This kind of build and stature should not move in the way that Joe Tippmann and his Wisconsin waterfall do. He's quite nice in the outside zone traditional looks. He's got some functional mobility. And then in pass pro, he allowed 1 sack in his entire career in Wisconsin. There are some things that I picked up in the video that I didn't like. I think his hand usage gets wide and late. He can parachute, lets people after he snaps the football get to his chest, can lead to a bull rush issue, or them being able to control his leverage, pop up those 6'7" shoulder pads and get him kind of in a bad position without leverage. So he needs to work on those things. But the footwork's fantastic. And I think there's a potential that he is a kind of 10-year starting, centerpiece that you just put on that offensive line, you plug and play. And that allows Connor McGovern, with a $1.5 million contract, to be an incredible value swing interior offensive lineman and really build on the depth that the Jets need up front, especially after the injuries they've had. Then coming out in day 3, the Jets only were scheduled to pick 3 times. They had a 4th and 2 5ths. They traded down immediately with the New England Patriots, who took a punter, thank goodness. A kicker, sorry, not a punter. They took one later. But they got to pick 120, and they took Carter Warren, the offensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. And the reason I like this selection, I'm only just diving into his film now, so I'm not going to pretend to know everything about his game and the intricacies of it. But he's a guy who is pass pro ready. So many tackles come out of the draft now. Take a look at a guy like Anton Harrison out of Oklahoma. You got no idea how they really protect the passer. It's such a projection because you're getting like 70 true pass sets in their entire season of tape. Mekhi Becton was a guy like that. Look, he panned out in 2021. He was great. But you just don't know if these players are going to translate because you don't see it on film. It doesn't mean they can't. You just have to project. But for a guy like Carter Warren, in 2021, when he was healthy at left tackle, he had, I think, the most or the second most true pass set reps of any tackle in college football. You saw it, and he was very, very good at it. He was adept. He moves his feet well. He travels well enough to stay at left tackle at the next level. And his other advantage is his arm length. He has freakishly long arms. I think they're bordering on 36 inches. He has the ability to get in your chest and to control the rep and reach. And that is just something that a lot of tackles cannot do. That's a natural, genetic advantage he has over a Peter Skoronski or some of these guys like Darnell Wright who don't have the longest arms on earth, but Carter definitely does. So I like the selection. He's coming off an injury in 2022. That's why he slid a little bit as well. The run blocking needs some work. He hasn't got a lot of power. He can get in front of his pads and be a kind of a lean blocker. He needs to hold his punch back a little bit. But look, he can develop that. The most difficult thing and the most important skill set for a tackle is their pass probability, and he has that in spades. And then in the fifth round, pick 143, the Jets stuck with the pit flavor and they took Izzy Abanikanda, the running back, and this was a match made in heaven. Everyone had a feeling coming into the process that the Jets were looking at upgrading their running back room. Breece Hall coming off the ACL, Michael Carter took a step back in 2022. Well, they got a guy who's just perfect for this Nathaniel Hackett offense. Inside outside zone, his ability to one cut to get north south and race defenders to the hole and then explode is fantastic. You look at an offense like the Dolphins or the 49ers, and they love these guys like Raheem Mostert, and this is what he can be. He's got the 4.41 speed in a 5'11 body. He's got enough power in his frame, but he's got good vision initially to find that hole. And then if you put on the tape against Virginia Tech or Tennessee, it's his acceleration. Once he gets to the hole, he was gliding away from people. It's like they were playing a different sport at a different speed. Izzy just had that next gear that a lot of guys do not have. He's a home run hitter like Breece Hall. The Jets value that. And it was a trend of their draft as well. Outside of drafting pit players, Joe Douglas wanted elite athletes. And he got a number of them in this class. Will McDonald, Izzy Abanikanda, and a guy they took in the seventh who I'm going to get to shortly. But Izzy had 20 touchdowns in 2022, nearly 1,500 yards. He's got enough pass catching ability to be a threat and to be able to play on third down. It's not the strength of his game, but he can catch a screen. He can run an angle route or a Texas route. And I think you're going to get a guy who can contribute immediately at the running back position. That's what you want. I think he's going to make the roster, no doubt at all. It's going to be really a Bam Knight, maybe Michael Carter competition. We're going to see how that unfolds, but I like the Izzy pick. Explosive athlete, good vision, and really perfect for this Hackett offense. And then the last pick in the seventh round, when you start to think, I just want the draft to be over. I've had enough. I'm watching all these teams pick. The Jets traded back, remember, with New England when they took the kicker. They got a fifth round pick. Then the Jets traded down again with the Las Vegas Raiders to pick up pick 220. And they took Zach Kuntz, the tight end out of Old Dominion. He came via Penn State. Can I just tell you, the Jets got one of the most incredible athletes I've ever seen on film. He literally is the number one tight end according to relative athletic score in the history of the NFL draft and combine since they've been tracking those numbers. Number one. According to NFL Analytics and NFL.com, he's the seventh best athlete to ever play the position coming out of the draft, just behind a guy called Vernon Davis. Not sure if you've heard of him. The reason that Kuntz dropped is because he had an ACL injury in 2022. He only played 3.5 games, had about 200 yards, a couple of touchdowns. Throw on the Virginia film. I'm telling you. I've got a film breakdown on the channel, and I posted just yesterday. This kid is phenomenal. As a pass-catching move tight end, that Mike Gesicki type, he is so supremely talented. He's 6'7", 250 pounds, but runs a 4.51, but it's the change of direction. The 6.83 cone, it shows up on the film. The ability to make people miss, to separate at the stem of his routes, to get that separation that you need, it was all over the tape. I'm telling you, the wiggle, the head fakes, the ability to explode out of the breaks, it's there. Then make people miss after the catch as well. He's got the big catch radius, 7-foot arms. He's got the 6'6" frame as it is. He can catch that ball. He's got the big reach. Just a fantastic athlete. Is he going to be that blocking inline tight end? He is most definitely not. He is a guy, like I said, like a Mike Gesicki, like a Fant who was drafted by the Broncos. He's that kind of player. But you get that in the seventh round. I look at him next to Luke Musgrave and go, what's the difference? I see a really similar player. And the Jets got that at pick 220. So as I said, guys, that's my initial thoughts on the Jets draft class. It was solid. It wasn't going to be 2022 again. Did I think they could have done a little bit more with some of the picks? Sure. But overall, I need to break down the film. And as I said, please go and check out the film breakdowns. They're usually 10 to 12 minutes long, diving into the all 22. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. I like the draft class. I love the bookend picks of Will McDonald and Zach Kuntz. I think Izzy Abanikanda can be a big role player for this team straight away. And let's see how they develop and let's support the team. Thanks for supporting the channel, and I'll see you next time.